Hello there, I'm Guildmaster Dan, and welcome to the Fourth Wall. Now, since I went through a bit of a curse last week with a bad case of influenza, I thought it would be appropriate to revisit an idea I had a while back for a unique role-playing setting. So this week, we're going to be exploring how to survive Curseworld. So, Dan, what is the Curseworld? Well, the Curseworld's an idea I had a while back while reading the Uzumaki manga. In the manga, it's about a town that suffers from a unknown curse. To the reader, it ends up becoming known as the Curse of the Spiral. But it is essentially a curse that besets the town that ends up essentially so destroying the town that it sinks it to a post-apocalyptic sort of setting. I mean, I suppose it's more appropriate to say a post-cataclysmic sort of setting, as we're talking on a local scale as opposed to, like, say, a global scale. But that being said, it created a very unique setting where people had to survive in a post-apocalyptic-esque scenario. However, the rules of that scenario were dictated not by disease or radiation, but by a curse. The key to Curseworld and other apocalyptic settings is that it's really the role-playing experience is about how survivors adapt to their new surroundings. And with the Curseworld specifically, the rules that dictate how they survive is about the effects of the curse and how it's spread, as they have to learn those things and essentially learn how to get their normal do their normal surviving, find food, water, shelter, and safety, while avoiding contracting the curse themselves or falling under the effects of the curse. So, for example, when creating your curse, you want to keep those two things in mind: the effects of the curse and how the curse is spread. And you'll probably want to come up with a story, at least, a backstory about how it started. For example, let's say we take a city just to go along with what we had. Say take Tokyo, we'll take Tokyo, or Hong Kong. Hong Kong, very good. All right, so you have the original curse, which is, we'll say it's a cursed item, something that was found in a curio shop. It's said that we'll say it's a little piece of parchment with an eye on it, a human eye on it. And it's said that if you look into this eye, you will be lost to it, and you will always be watched by it. Okay, good. So we have our patient zero, as it were, who comes in the curio shop, buys said item, and takes it home, sounding like a horror movie. Well, Curseworld. And sure enough, they look into the eye, and nothing's really bad at first. Maybe it's a little unsettling, but, they carry on with their life, and, then they just constantly have this feeling that they're being watched. That, maybe what the owner of that shop said is true, that, looking into the eye means you're always being watched by it. But, at first, it's not. They're just being paranoid. They just feel like they're being watched all the time. They start becoming obsessed by that feeling. They don't like people looking at them anymore. And they might avoid eye contact and insist that people don't look at them when they talk to them. Well, it doesn't help anything. They continue to feel like they're being watched. And in fact, it reaches a point where they start seeing eyes everywhere in their daily life. They start seeing act like human eyes opening in the walls of their apartments, or in books that they open, or in their own bed on their pillow. They, at a worse stage, even past this, when they're walking around and they see eyes everywhere, they might see additional eyes start opening on their body that are constantly watching them. Now here's the ticker here. These are the effects of the curse. Slowly, it will drive them mad, and they will kill themselves. because they are constantly being watched and observed. And that feeling of paranoia will get to them and they kill themselves. That is the effect of the curse. Now here's the spread. Those eyes that they start seeing opening up in their apartment and on their bodies aren't hallucinations. Those eyes actually appear. They are spectral eyes, or they're actual biological eyes caused by the curse that actually open up in these places that they see them. In their car, in their apartment, on their bodies, at their workplace, and the same thing occurs. Anyone who locks eyes with one of these eyeballs, one of these human eyes, will constantly feel like they're being watched, and the curse will carry on. Now, because of this spread, Tokyo will very quickly have a great many people who have succumbed to the curse, and eyes will spread all over the city. They will spread through buildings, all on the outside, along the streets, in cars. All of a sudden, and there's eyes everywhere. Now, for those who actually manage to observe this curse and observe the people who, and it's kind of appropriate, you think, that observe that. Anyway, who observe the effects of this curse and survive, do not manage to figure out, don't look at the eyes, will find themselves in a very empty city, or at least an emptier city with quite a few mad people out, and they have to learn how to, with society crumbled, they have to learn how to survive. And there's certain things that obviously they would need to do in this sort of setting. For one thing, they need to avoid looking at they need to avoid looking around very much, because they don't want to make eye contact with any of the spectral eyes. So they might have to go out only at night, or they might have to start wearing like blind or goggles with blinders or that sort of thing. Or they might need to develop ways of walking around while only using their peripheral vision and not looking directly at anything, or constantly be looking around so they never actually focus on anything. And then on top of that, you have to look at how, on top of the effects of that and how people adapt to survive to it, you have to look at the groups that come out of those effects. So you're going to have the people that are trying to survive, and the different means that they're going to try to survive around this curse of being watched. And then you also have the people that have succumbed to the curse. So you have crazy people going around who are obsessed with not being looked at in a city full of eyes. To the point, since they've become obsessed with this, they might become obsessed with stabbing out every eye that they come across, whether it's in a person or not. So you have maybe people going out and hunting eyes because they don't want to be looked at anymore. So they go out and they start collecting all the eyes that they find, whether they're in a person or not. You have people who don't trust others. They don't want anybody near them. Essentially, you have people starting to become paranoid of being watched, even without having succumbed to the curse, because they know all the eyes that are out there and all those wackos are out there. And then you also get the interesting scenario where you're in your group of survivors that are going out and gathering food and trying to have a go of it. You have you have one of them succumb to the curse. A kid locks eyes with one of the spectral eyeballs and you're not sure, like, oh, well, they only looked for a second. They only looked for a second. They can't possibly be succumbed to they can't possibly have come, they can't possibly have contracted the curse. They have to be, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. And then you have other people, no. If they are cursed, eyes are going to start appearing in our safe house. They are not coming back with us. You want to stay here with them? Power to you. But you're both staying here. We are not having eyes open up back at the safe house. But you see how this is creating a setting that is, it's kind of similar to other post-apocalyptic settings, and it's about how you survive and how you deal with people in this new stressful, essentially in this new world where the social contract has failed. The key to remember when designing your curse is come up with the effects of that curse and come up with how it is spread. But also keep in mind how groups of people will form around those effects and around that adapting, because that will actually create the setting for you beyond just the curse itself. That's what will really fill out the setting, so that your players actually have different conflicts and groups to work with. But so we have this concept of the curse world, and we know how to develop it. But Dan, how should we use this? Well, I feel that the best way to use the curse world is actually in a smaller sense. Even though you can take the concept and use it in a full post-apocalyptic setting, wipe out your entire world with a single curse, and role play in the setting that comes out of that. Even though you can do that, I feel that the curse world works best in a smaller setting. Just because if you like post-apocalyptic settings, great. And you might have a lot of fun doing this in a unique sort of, a new twist on post-apocalyptic settings. Great. But I fear that even for players like that, the novelty of these new rules and this new sort of setting may wear off after a while. I mean, after all, it does come from horror. The idea does come from a horror setting, and even with the example I gave you, you can tell how it has its roots in the horror mentality. And because of that, horror has always worked better in not in open campaigns, but in, contained experiences. And it works better in a smaller, more controlled space and time frame. As such, I think it's better that if you use Curseworld either for, say, a Halloween session or a one-shot at a con, or if you're running in a game, or have it be a setting that your players come to in a game that they're already playing. For example, if you're running an investigation sort of game, sorry about that, if you're running an investigation game, sort of like Call of Cthulhu, or like how I was running an SCP game a little while back, have the thing that they actually go to investigate or explore be one of these settings, a small village or a small fishing town that has succumbed to one of these curses. And coming into this, they kind of have to learn from the locals, what the rules of the curse are and how to survive in the situation, or at least how to get done what they need to get done, from the locals, from the survivors. You got to learn who to trust and who to avoid. And, it could be a thing that they have to go and fix, or it could just be, this town's freaking cursed, and our main goal is to get done what we need to get done and get out. And, God help those sorry bastards. I think it works better as a contained setting. Either as a one-shot, like at a con, we come in, all right, this is the setting that we're dealing with. Oh, this is kind of cool and unique and kind of freaky, a little bit unsettling, but, we do our little adventure and we're done. I don't think it'll work well as just an open campaign, just because the rules of that curse are not enough to carry an entire game. Oh, don't get me wrong, it makes for unique role-playing experiences, but it's not enough to carry the story of an entire game. So I would say keep it to contained experiences, such as one-shots, or specific settings in whatever game you're currently running. Now, if you want to expand this, if you really like the idea of this, and you want to expand into something larger, you can do that, but perhaps do a supernatural investigation game where your player's job is to go out to villages and towns and cities that have succumbed to curses, and they're supposed to either stop these curses or rescue however many people they can, or just flat out contain the curse in that location. That's a setting that you can use that is larger than just a single curse and lets you explore multiple, and gives you can get into multiple unique settings as opposed to taking one and just stretching it to fit an entire world. The last thing I'd recommend is if you decide to use the Curseworld concept, when you're designing your curse, look to horror movies and actual supposed curses in the real world and draw inspirations from those. Those can help you come up with the initial scenarios that you can spread from there and see how this city or town or whatever actually succumb to the curse. Now, the concept of Curseworld has a lot of potential, and maybe there's something that you thought of that I didn't talk about, or if you disagreed with something I had to say, please feel free to leave a comment below. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.